All right, take two. Do you have an upcoming divorce mediation session? Wait, what? Do you have an upcoming?
Divorce mediation
Okay.
session. Yeah.
Sorry, let's edit that out. Okay. Three, two, one. Here is the official start. So, do you have mediation coming up? Are you trying to prepare? Are you wondering what to ask for? Wondering how you're going to get what you want? Wondering if what the process is, what the role of the mediator is, what's going to happen? And are you going to come out of the session or sessions with a divorce outcome that you feel great about? So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about negotiation and 10 tips for success. My guest is Melissa Wheeler Farrig, who is a negotiation coach. Melissa is also a divorce mediator and she's a divorce attorney. She's been a divorce attorney for 10 years and decided to focus her practice on mediation and helping people negotiate. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me here.
I am so glad you're here. I also want to tell my listeners that Melissa has a podcast. Tell my listeners where they can find your podcast, what it's called, because really you're going to be such a wonderful guest because you already even have your own podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. So, my podcast is called High Vibe Divorce, just regular spelling, High Vibe Divorce. And the whole idea is that you can choose to have a more high vibrational divorce experience. If we think of everything being energy, do you want to have a low vibrational, low energy divorce that's negative and expensive? Or do you want to have something that's a little bit more self aware, spiritually minded, focused on wellness? Jackie, I think your brand is actually really a good complement to mine. There's a lot of the same people and I think that a lot of people from your group they're going to be on my podcast because they really walk the walk.
And what's nice is it's all different discussions. So even if it's the same people, you're talking about all this different stuff. And you know what,
Absolutely.
Melissa? I love that about you too, because the first time we talked, I was like, she's so positive. And divorce is not a positive thing. And but you can make it a positive thing. And you know what that's going to do for you? Give you a happier, healthier life and help you co-parent better so that your kids have a better experience. And the biggest thing, it's going to get you what you want in your divorce settlement. So that's what I want to talk about today with you, Melissa. You wrote an article for Divorce Girl Smiling called 10 Tips for Success in Mediation and Negotiation. And I want you to share those with the listeners because I think people listening, they're in preparation mode. And Melissa and I want to do everything we can to help you with the best negotiation tips so that you come out of the mediation process with a really good result. Not like, oh, I'm over the top. I got everything I wanted, or not, oh my gosh, I really got screwed. I didn't get anything, but somewhere in between that you feel happy and at peace with, and that you can start your new life off in a really good, positive way.
Absolutely. And the number one thing I have is to thoroughly prepare. A lot of people don't thoroughly prepare for mediation, and some people don't prepare at all. And part of being a mediator is setting the agenda and getting people prepared. What issues, what have you not agreed on? What do we need to work through? But you need to think about it. And even when I'm an attorney, I ask my clients, well, what is it you want? And people don't think about it. It's crazy. They don't think about it in advance. You have to think about it. Take out a piece of paper and a pen or a word processing document, on Word, or even just an email to yourself and start writing out, what do you want? What are you interested in getting out of this process?
Okay, now I'm going to even break it down more specifically. Take out a pen and paper and say, house, assets. Which assets
Exactly.
do I want? Do I want the house? What do I want my custody schedule to look like exactly?
Yeah. Well,
You know,
absolutely. Well, so and part of the preparation and actually, if you are using Divorce Girl Smiling, this is a great place to start. I actually love all the different experts that are out there. I feel like not all family law attorneys love people using experts, but utilize who's out there, certified divorce financial analysts. And they are going to help you take a look at what you have and start making plans. What is it you want? Do you want the house? Can you afford the house? What are the possible options that may break out when you go into your divorce? And that can be in court, and that can be in mediation. And then also, depending on where you're at, you should talk to a divorce coach. You may need some help kind of getting your ducks in a row and feeling a little bit more comfortable starting the process. And divorce coaches will help you understand the bigger picture, get yourself together, have a little bit more moral support. And I think that's a huge part of getting prepared. I will also throw out there, if you are not in a good place and you feel like you're just going to start crying or kind of lose it, if you walk into a mediation session and you're just not ready to dig into things, maybe have some therapy sessions.
Okay, you bring up such a good point, and thank you for saying that about Divorce Girl Smiling because that's exactly why I created it. So people can go to the site, they can look at all of my divorce professionals. You can read, each one has their own page, and then you can have a free consult with them. So 100%, I recommend that one of the first calls you make is to a divorce coach. Now, Melissa, you can act as a negotiation coach. So that is, all of these divorce coaches have different niches. Melissa's niche, you can hire Melissa as a negotiation coach to help you just figure out what you are going to ask for and how to get it in mediation. Now, if that's not
Right.
your biggest issue and you think, well, I need a divorce coach because I need more like emotional help. I'm afraid to be alone. I don't know what career I want to do after divorce. I have to figure out what I want my life to look like. Well, that's a different kind of coach. Or if you say, you know what, I'm dating for the first time after 30 years, that's a different coach. And what's nice is you can go on Divorce Girl Smiling and look at all these coaches and kind of shop and see which one you feel would be a good fit to have a consult with. Melissa, I loved also that you talked about consulting with a financial advisor, a certified divorce financial advisor. A certified divorce lending professional is somebody who you can call. They'll walk you through it and you can say, can I keep the house? Can I afford it? That person will get a bunch of information from you and then kind of give you an answer. And so these
Yeah.
are all people that you can connect with, and that's part of the preparation process.
Well, and yeah, and if I can add to that, it's really important that you do these things and talk to these people before. And if you don't need them and you talk to them, especially if you're able to do a free consult, they will say, you know what, I don't really think it's a good fit. Sounds like you don't need me. And hey, no, there's no harm in that. But a lot of people, they think, I want the house. I mean, we'll get to this, but this, I want the house. I want the house. And they don't figure out until after they've already entered an agreement that's not great, that they actually can't afford the house, or that they are not gonna have the lifestyle that they want if they have to maintain the house. And
And the
you
and
need
the
to talk
house
to early.
Right, and the house is so emotional. It's like, "Of course I want the house. I'm not leaving here. It's too much change." But if you sit down with the right people, a financial advisor, a certified divorce lending professional, they will help you wake up and say, "You know what? Here's what your budget is gonna look like if you keep the house and you're gonna have this $5,000 a month mortgage payment. You're not gonna be able to do anything else in life. You're just gonna be paying this." And maybe you need a real estate agent that's going to help you look for other houses. Hey, let's go out and look. And then you see these cute little maintenance free townhomes and you go, "Ooh, this is delightful." And so it's scary to think about moving if you don't have anything in mind. So maybe that's the key. Go look for a day.
Absolutely. Yeah, just see what's out there, see what is reasonable for you under your current circumstances. A lot of people have had mortgages for a really long time. They may be at 2 or 3%, and then I mean, and God knows what's going to happen in the next several months, how the economy is going to look. But you don't know, if I refinance, can I afford to refinance? What is that going to look like? These are things you need to have a better handle on before you really start the process if you are going to have a good mediation process, because you're going to have a lot less fear too. You're going to feel very fearful as you're going through these issues if you haven't already talked to somebody about them.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today I'm here with divorce mediator and negotiation coach Melissa Wheeler Farrig. Melissa and I are talking about 10 tips for success in mediation, meaning how to negotiate. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we have 9 more tips to negotiating in mediation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Divorce Girls Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Are you headed into mediation and you have no idea what that's going to look like, what's going to happen, what you should say, what you should ask for, and how you're going to get what you want? If so, this is a great podcast for you. My guest is Melissa Wheeler Farrig, divorce mediator, negotiation coach, divorce lawyer, and the founder of Okay. And the founder of High Vibe, one more time. And the
For higher
founder of
mediation.
oh my God. And the founder of High Vibe Mediation. She's also the host of High Vibe Divorce Podcast. Okay, let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 1, by the way, was prepare thoroughly. Tip number 2, set realistic expectations. Tell me about that.
Yes. And so really preparing thoroughly is going to help you get to this step too, because you're going to realize where are we financially, what is actually going to happen. But you need to kind of understand. One thing that I see is that people, they talk to their friends and they're not really looking at their own situation. You need to understand, like, financially, how much money actually is there. If you want, sure, we all would love to have $30,000 a month of alimony. But if my husband only makes $100,000 a year, then there's no way I'm going to get $30,000 a month in alimony. So we need to start being really realistic and doing some of your own research, talking to other experts, really taking a look at your tax returns for the last 5 years. This stuff isn't fun, but it has to be done, and you can better understand your situation and your case, and there'll be less fear and questioning going through.
Well, divorce really forces people to take a microscope into their financial lives. And that really is scary. And when I got divorced, and I'm telling people who are listening, I didn't know what I was spending, what I had, how much money I was bringing in. I had no clue and didn't even want to know, thought my money would last forever. And guess what? I ended up coming $7,000 away from having no expendable money for right now. I was literally $7,000 away from having to ask someone for a loan. And I went back to work full time. It was a total game changer for me. Can't even get into how much other benefits that gave me. But when Melissa says set realistic expectations, the only way to do this is to really look at the numbers. And we're not asking you to do this alone because we know that can be intimidating. So do it with a financial advisor who specializes in divorce. You can do it with a mortgage lender. And so that's why talking to these professionals will really help you. All right, number
Absolutely, yeah.
3 is separate emotions from negotiations. Now that is really something in your wheelhouse, Melissa. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so you have to come in and you have to think about, okay, what are we doing? So a divorce in any jurisdiction is just, you need to come out with an agreement between you, your spouse, and the court. That's really what a mediated agreement or settlement is going to be. And it's going to be, you're writing down alimony, who gets what for each month, who gets the house, who gets the checking account, who gets X, Y, or Z, how much time does each parent get with the children. You're really just whittling things down to a few pieces of paper, and your emotions need to stay at the door. A big benefit of mediation is there is more space for emotion, and there is more space for empathy and compassion, and we understand that this is a really emotionally charged issue. That is compared with going to court, but really, you're not going to get anywhere if you are really triggered by your spouse or you really are just going to lose it and get so angry with them. I mean, whatever it is, you have to disconnect the two things. That's why you have to prepare thoroughly, meet with people. And if you are not in a good mental, emotional place, get the support you need to get to a better place before you have your next session.
And getting to a better place emotionally means talking to a divorce coach or a therapist. Okay, now Melissa, in these mediations that you do people get a chance to vent and talk about what's bothering them? Because that's a good thing in my opinion.
Absolutely, there is space for that. It really depends on who you're working with and what setting you're in, but there's a lot more space for that, and that's why I actually tell people you're gonna get your quote unquote day in court if you go to mediation. Most people don't
Right.
get their quote unquote day in court, and when they're day in court, it just means you get an opportunity to share how you're feeling, get things off your chest. You want to be treated with dignity, and you just want to share how I'm feeling. I'm very hurt. There's room for that in mediation, always, but there isn't always gonna be that in other modes of divorce.
And it's so interesting because people will say, like, I just want to go to court so the judge can hear how awful he is. But what Melissa's telling you is that you're not going to get to do that in litigation. But if you're in mediation, you can tell the mediator and you can feel more heard and validated when you're in mediation and you get so much more time. Not that mediation is all about that, but it does, as Melissa's saying, does come up. And Melissa, you should tell my listeners that your story of why you became a mediator because you were a litigator, right?
Absolutely. Well, I've always been interested in mediation, but I have been a litigator for 10 years. I'm actually divorced myself, but we mediated. Actually, we just agreed on everything because I was not going to go to court. But I have just found that people we don't get to help people as litigators. The system just doesn't help people, and frequently we will prepare for days and months and spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to court and only get 10 minutes in front of the judge. Where in mediation, you actually get to get things off your chest, talk it out. People are much happier with the solutions that are reached, and people get to maintain control over their case and their lives. And they're going to do a lot less damage to themselves psychologically and to their families, especially their children. I'm just obviously in love with mediation. I think it's such a great thing, and it's the much better option if the circumstances work for your family.
Okay, moving on to number 4, focus on interests, not positions. What is the difference?
So we can just go back to the marital home example is perfect. So the position that we don't want you to focus on is I want the house. It's my house. I want the house. Okay, that's not always helpful. What positions or what interests are really behind that? Your interest may be I want stability for the children and I want to minimize disruption in their lives, meaning you want the kids to feel stable, happy, and you don't want to disrupt them. But you got to think about what that means. So disruption could mean, okay, if I'm going to keep the house, they're going to have to quit club soccer because I can't afford it anymore. We can't go on our annual vacation to Disney World because we can't afford it anymore. I have to go to work. And so I don't get to pick the kids up from school anymore and they have to stay in the after school program. There's a number of things. So keeping the house isn't necessarily going to be the solution to your interest, which is stability and minimizing disruption. So if you focus on what it is you want, and if you focus on those interests, and the other side focuses on those interests, you may actually find that it's a lot easier to reach a resolution in mediation. Because if both of you say, I want the house, you're going to butt heads. But if you lay out what your interests are, usually we can find that there are resolutions that will suit everyone's needs.
I just love that. I love it. And I don't know, this is not that, but it's related. Somebody once told me, if you ask for something, if you ask anybody, this is for anybody in life, not just divorce. If you ask somebody, like you say, I need this. I need this money, or I need you to do this. If you back it up with why, you have such a better chance. Like if you want a promotion at work, you don't just go in and say to your boss, "I feel like I should be promoted." Then say, "Because I've shown in this case, and this case that I'm a leader, I'm this. I increased sales by 186% last year." Give concrete reasons and you're more likely to get what you want. Don't just say, "I want the house." I want the house because it's better for the kids, because there's more stability, and because of this, this, and this, instead of just saying, I want the house,
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side's probably going to agree with you.
hopefully. Okay,
Hopefully.
number
Yeah.
5, communicate effectively.
Yeah. So just think about, plan for it. Don't just go in. This is a new relationship. You are now entering this is now your ex or your co-parent. So you are not just the married people that you used to be. So you need to think of this more as a business transaction when you're going into mediation, and you want to communicate calmly, clearly. And that's why preparation is huge. Go back to your piece of paper, your bullet points, and communicate what you want. Communicate your interests. Don't just go back to the positions, and don't just focus on what used to happen or you always did this. Stop focusing on the past, focus on the present and the future only.
And you put in here, avoid accusatory or inflammatory language that can derail the mediation process, active listening, and just thinking to yourself. And I know a divorce lawyer who literally said, "I hate when people say keep the emotion out of it." So we definitely, Melissa, don't you agree with me? We understand that sometimes you want to say like F you want to scream and yell,
Absolutely. No, no, no,
and we understand.
absolutely, but it's not gonna get you anywhere.
Right.
And you do know the other person, and you do know how to push their buttons. So you know saying certain things is gonna spin things out of control. It's not gonna get you anywhere, and that's why you have to plan, and you have to plan for what can I do? How can I keep this? Not just keep the peace. Stuff is gonna come out, and a skilled mediator is gonna know when to stop you and to calm things down, but you you got to plan. You got to plan and treat this like a business transaction to the best of your ability.
Right, to the best of your ability. That's the key words. Okay, number 6, be willing to compromise.
Yeah, so there's actually some mediators that say, it's been a successful mediation when both sides leave unhappy. And I know that's not a great sales pitch for mediation, but frequently you go to court, everyone's going to be unhappy. And to what extent, you don't know. But if you compromise and you come in and you know your objectives and you pick your battles wisely and you think, I really want these 10 things, but the top 5 are just key for me. You need to know where you're willing to compromise, because you're both going to have to compromise. And that is just, you can't get away with it or get away from it.
Okay, I like to compare it to buying a car. Like you walk out of there and you're kind of happy. You're like, "Okay, I love the car. I'm excited about it. I kind of got what I wanted. Well, it doesn't have a sunroof, but that's okay. I love the color. I feel like I got a good deal." I mean, that's kind of a good.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be compromise. So just know that there will be compromise. But at least with compromise, it's something you're choosing. It's not just a poor result you're being handed from a judge.
Absolutely. Number 7, think long term. And you write, a great way to focus on the long term is to stop and ask yourself, will this matter in 1 year? Will this matter in 5 years?
Yeah, so this really does tie back into the last one, be willing to compromise. A lot of people come in and they are feeling fired up and they don't like the person sitting across from them, and they want to win. And they're thinking of this, I need to win every issue. You don't. Is this an issue that's really going to matter? I mean, I have had multi-million dollar cases where people are fighting over things like toasters. If you can just go out and take the money that you're going to be getting from the settlement and buy the top of the line toaster, a new one that you're going to love, just do that. Like, is it really, really worth it? Is it worth getting worked up over? Is it worth wasting time and paying the mediator's time for? It's usually not. So just
Mm.
think about it. Is it going to matter? If it's going to matter, and you think, hey, you know what, this is really going to impact our children, and I feel this in my bones, then fight for it.
Mhm.
But if not, come on now.
Absolutely. Number 8, utilize the mediator. Yeah, tell me about this one.
So, mediators, we have skills, we have training. We are constantly training, we are constantly learning, and a lot of us are really good people people. We know how to work with people and we know how to take things down. We know how to I do a lot of virtual mediation. So, I have breakout rooms. If things are getting too heated, I can separate people. I know how to ask certain questions that can change the energy of the conversation, and we know, okay, we need to change to a different topic. We know how to improve the situation and help the parties better communicate their points, or get certain questions across. And if you feel like, you know what, I'm feeling a little unsafe, I need a break, please talk to us. We can help you and we can help make the situation more efficient.
Okay, we're running out of time, so we got 2 more. Document everything. Why is that important?
So your mediator will should help you do this, but you want to make sure that you have documented agreements. If you know something is, hey, I'm really concerned that if we walk away from this and we come back in 2 weeks, that my spouse isn't going to value this agreement. Tell the mediator, hey, would it be okay if we had a memorandum of understanding or a term sheet that we signed today on just this specific issue? Because I want to make sure that we get this in writing.
I love that. I love that. And the last one, and okay, we people listening are going to be like, yeah, yeah, we get it. Be patient and persistent.
Yeah, so you just have to have some trust in the process. Mediators, like I said, we've been trained, and it might feel like you're handling one issue and it just feels like we're not getting anywhere. Trust me, trust your mediator. We're going to get you through and we're going to get you through to the end, and it's going to work out. We're going to get you somewhere, but you can't just get upset about one issue and run out of the process. Just trust the process. You'll get there, and you have to have a commitment to mediation and getting resolution if you want it to work. So truly engage in it, truly believe in it, and it's going to get you there.
Now, what about people who leave every mediation session and then like call their lawyer and say like, "What do you think about this?" Is that a good thing to do? Is that kind of hindering the process?
It really depends on the attorney, and that's why I'll say make sure that if you are interested in mediation, that you are working with an attorney that is pro mediation, because a lot of litigators love to litigate. They want to go to court. They think mediation is worthless, and so that's not always going to be a good fit.
So you want to if you want to mediate, you have to hire a lawyer who is part, if not all of their practice is getting people divorced via mediation, right? I mean, if you go for the shark attorney, they're going to sort of dissuade you away from mediation.
Yeah, they certainly can. But I'd say a lot of attorneys, I mean, 90% of cases don't ever go to trial. So you just want to make sure, when you're hiring an attorney, ask them, how many of your cases do you take to trial? And if they say, oh, all of them, that's a red flag. That's a red
Right.
flag, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, like Melissa said, trust the process. And then at the end, when you have this agreement, you haven't signed anything, you haven't put it in writing that you're agreeing to it, then have the meeting with the divorce attorney and say, "Here's what I feel is a decent deal that I can live with. What do you think?" And show them everything and say, "This is the final package." And that will give you peace of mind, because if there's any big red flags, which there won't be, because these mediators are really, really trained well, and mediators know the laws in each state. So they're going to tell you things like, if you go to court, here is probably how the judge is going to rule in this instance. And that is helpful. But the reason I'm mentioning this is people think, oh, I'm doing this on my own, just trusting the divorce mediator. And you're really not. because you can show it to your lawyer, make sure your lawyer thinks you've settled on a good settlement, and then the judge has to also look at it and think it's fair. A judge can
Right.
say, "You know what? This looks really unbalanced to me. I'm not comfortable with it." And that rarely happens, right, Melissa?
Yeah, that rarely happens. But something I want to make sure that I think not enough people know about mediation is that you can try mediation and it might be there's one or two issues that you can't reach an agreement on. You can sign an agreement on 8 of the 10 issues and then just go to court on the 2 issues that you haven't settled on. And the court will be so grateful that you guys didn't just plop everything in front of them. Just say, "You know what? We just need the court to make a decision on these 2 things." And they will be so grateful and it will be so much less expensive for you and so much less time wasted. So you can just do your best with mediation. It's not all or nothing.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a
Melissa, thank
huge
you
game changer.
so it is. Thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. I really, really appreciate it, and I loved your advice.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
And if you liked what you heard and you want to talk to Melissa, you can find her at highvibemediation.com. You can book a discovery call, which is complimentary. I'm on your site right now looking. And if you want to hear her podcast, you can find it on all the channels, right? Melissa High Vibe Mediation or High Vibe Divorce podcast.
Yes, on all major, platforms.
And you can also find Melissa in the trusted professionals section of Divorced Girl Smiling by going to divorcedgirlsmiling.com. You can also find so many other wonderful, trusted, vetted divorce professionals, like we talked about financial advisors, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, divorce coaches, and more. And you can listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon.